Is the universe intelligent? Is it communicating with us? Are feathers and coins ways that angels or loved ones on the other side communicate with us? Does seeing butterflies when we're thinking about deceased loved ones mean anything? How about hearing certain songs at certain times? How do we tell what is a spiritual sign and what's just a coincidence? How do we listen? How do we know a sign is a sign and not just some wacky conspiracy thought? How do we know what to follow and what to ignore? These are some of the questions we will dive into today. And as with everything else in this channel, you get to decide what's best for you and what you believe. Hello, everyone, and welcome back or welcome for the first time to my channel. I'm Davina Katulski, self-help author, spiritual life coach, psychologist, and New Thought spiritual practitioner. This channel is dedicated to personal growth, spirituality, health, and well-being, and everything that I talk about on this channel is about supporting our minds, body, and spirit on our journey to healing and transformation. Today, I'll be talking about spiritual signs and how to recognize them. Again, this isn't science, and I'm not telling you to do something that feels wrong to you. You are the ultimate interpreter of your experience. Additionally, some things are not spiritual signs. They may be signs of psychosis or mania or something else. In those situations, it's best that you seek professional help immediately. That being said, let's dive in. What is a spiritual sign? A spiritual sign is a message that comes to you. Could be in the form of a stranger sharing information with you, seeing an animal totem, which I will talk about in another segment. And we'll talk about animal speaks and how to, the book Animal Speak by Ted Andrews, and how to read the signs of the animals. But a spiritual message is something that comes to you. And again, it could be like when someone mentions a book to you and you've actually heard it from three different people, three different times in a matter of a month. That's a message to you, right? Or if you hear about traveling to a particular place. And again, in I'm going to say three, I like the number three. That gets my attention when I hear something three times. So if three different people mention visiting a place that they've gone to, and there are three different people, and they mention it, three different people mention it, and it's over a period of a month or 6 weeks or 8 weeks or something, that to me could be a sign. All right. Again, these things are up to you, what you interpret as a spiritual sign. Now, how do you interpret a spiritual sign, and how is it different than a coincidence? So, again, it could be a coincidence that you've heard about this book three different times uh, because it's in or like a TV show, for example, because everyone's watching this TV show, or the book just hit the bestsellers list, so everyone's talking about it. I would say that that's more of a coincidence than if you hear three different people talk to you and mention a more obscure book, or a more obscure movie that's from a different time period, or a more obscure place. Okay. That's how I would sort of discern it as different from a coincidence. Something that's not in the, trending topics on Google. Okay. So it's just more offbeat that it would be mentioned three times by three different people. Now I'm going to describe a synchronicity to you. Synchronicity is the idea that events happen at the same time and seem related, but don't seem to have an obvious cause, but they are meaningful. And this concept is associated with Carl Jung. He talks about a scarab beetle that a woman saw after traveling to Egypt. I'm not going to remember it correctly, but it was this weird sign of this random scarab beetle, and it had an important synchronicity for her. I really apologize for not having that memorized, but you can Google it and read about it yourself. So anyway, Carl Jung, who's a psychiatrist, believed that synchronicity was a part of the healthy human mind. Okay. And it meant like seeing a number repeatedly. So like some of us see 1111 several times, or 333. If you see 444, that's like an angel number, for example. But you see a number multiple times when you're not looking for it. 1234 might be another one, which is kind of like things are moving forward. You may run into an old friend on the same day that you just looked at a picture of them, or thought of them, right? So you haven't talked to them in a long time, but you just saw them or they came into your mind and then you bump into them. Another synchronicity could be you're singing a song and then you turn on the radio and there it is. Having an idea or image come into your mind at the same time that something like that happens in the real world. These are synchronicities. And some people believe that synchronicity is related to spiritual guidance. I'm one of those people. So again, if you have a lot of synchronicities, to me, that's a sign of being guided. That's the universe speaking to you. Now, some people ask, should spiritual signs be negative or positive or feel negative or positive? Ultimately, they're meant to be informative, not positive or negative. So the signs might lead you towards steps that your higher self already knows are in your best interest, but maybe your ego self doesn't want to take those steps because it doesn't want to let go and it's afraid. It's afraid of the fear or loss or change that would come from taking those steps. Spiritual signs should never tell you to hurt someone or yourself. If you're getting messages to harm yourself or others, that's mostly psychosis or you're having a mental health crisis, and you should seek help right away before you harm yourself or others. So again, spiritual messages should never tell you that to harm someone ever or to harm yourself. They might steer you away from someone who might harm you in some way, or it might try to steer you away from something that's not in your best interest. But again, a spiritual message is never going to ask you to hurt another being. If it does, that's not a spiritual message. Again, that is probably a psychosis or a mental health crisis. And again, you should seek immediate help. So, a loving God or spirit would never ask you to harm someone. The golden rule itself is to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So, spiritual signs might warn you against dangers, guide you in taking next steps. And I'll give you an example of kind of warning you against dangers. This was a really weird one that I had. Back in, I think it was 2010, I was going to get a massage at a place I'd been going to for 15 years. And it's the kind of place that has different therapists every time. So you may or may not have the same exact therapist. And you pay ahead and you go in, and it was a wonderful spa in Oakland, California. And again, I'd been going there for 15 years without incident. But as I was in the waiting room and the person came out to get me, as I got up and I saw the person, I like heard this voice, which sounds very weird, but it was like a voice, for lack of a better word, that just said, just don't go in there. And I had never experienced anything like that before. And I thought, well, that is weird. Why, why am I hearing this like download or whatever to not go in there? Person seems fine. And I was sort of befuddled, like I've already paid for my massage. And I think I write about this in one of my books, either It's Never Too Late to Be Yourself or The Man of Paradigm Shift, about listening to your higher self. So my higher self was somehow communicating this to me, or a guide or whatever. And again, I'd already paid for this massage. And so I wasn't going to say to the person, oh, my higher self or inner guide just told me not to have a massage with you. So I'm leaving. I want my money back. I'm going to go downstairs and ask for my money back. I literally did not know what to do. And I'd never had anything like that happen. And so I went in and, got on the table for the massage. And this massage therapist, if you want to call them that, massage terrorist, started to work on me. And they pulled my arm out of the socket. And I screamed in pain. And, you know, I think the normal human response would be for them to apologize and say, oh my God, are you okay? Like, what just happened? Instead, they like justified their behavior and were just like, well, I can't remember what they said, but it was something like, well, I'm just stretching you, or don't be such a wimp. I don't know. It was so crazy. And again, now I would have never gone into the room with that person. If I got that inner guidance, I would let the money go and make up a reason, lose the money, whatever. I would never, ever do that again. And if I were to have done something like that again, as soon as the person hurt me, I would have said, please stop. and leave, and gotten off the table and gotten dressed and ended that massage immediately. Um, I was naive spiritually, I guess. I continued on with the massage, although I told the person, don't do that again. You know, I don't know how I think I was going to relax after that experience, but I stayed and they continued with the massage. And I can't say they didn't hurt me again, but it was not a great massage. And I left and I went home and I had enormous bruises on my body, and took pictures of it. Um, was in so much pain. I had to call in sick to work the next day. I made an appointment to go to the urgent care. The doctor that saw me was horrified. He could not believe that, this happened during a massage, and encouraged me to, basically contact the massage place and, ask for my money back, but also, to file a claim against them. And anyhow, it was the weirdest thing because I had gotten a spiritual sign to not go in for this massage, and I ignored it at my own peril. And it was a real, real wake up call. But it was also really profound that our guides, our higher self, can communicate with us. They can break through the veil, which again, I'm a psychologist in practice, so I realize this sounds like, what the hell are they talking about? You know, but this can happen. And I think it's important to talk about the difference between spiritual signs and psychosis so that you know the difference and other people around you know the difference. And again, I always talk about this wonderful book by psychiatrist Stanislav Grof called Spiritual Emergency, which talks more about these things. But yeah, sometimes the veil is thin, and our guides, our guardians, our higher selves, our angels, whatever, can communicate with us. And again, they're going to communicate with us in a way to warn us against danger, not to hurt ourselves or hurt others, but to move away from danger. So that is one of those stories. And if you have stories like that, please put them in the chat. Send me information about your stories. I think that these are so valuable to listen to. And again, these are not auditory hallucinations that are like psychosis. This is very different. Psychic mediums know what I'm talking about because they get these messages from the beyond the veil. There's also a really great book, maybe I'll talk more about it later, called The Science of Channeling by Helene Wanabe, I think is her name. It just came out this year, and she's a neuroscientist and talks about some of these things and the distinctions between psychosis and hearing messages from guides, spirit guides, and things like that. Okay, so again, I know this is wild, but just important to share these things. So spiritual signs show up like messages. Like maybe you're wondering, should I make a move? And then you see a moving truck go by as you're thinking about moving. That could be a sign. Again, it's up to you to interpret it. Hearing a voice in your head telling you not to take the freeway, right? Like just having this download of like, or hearing like this little like, don't take the freeway. And so you decide to take the side streets instead, and then you turn on the radio and hear that there was an accident on the freeway. These kinds of things. And again, I use the term hearing a voice loosely because it's hard to explain. It's like a divine download. Spiritual signs may come in the form of a butterfly. Maybe when you're thinking about a deceased loved one, this butterfly shows up. And in my years of working with people, dozens of folks have reported seeing butterflies when they've been thinking about loved ones. One client had so many butterfly signs that they made a request to a deceased relative, and they said, if this is really you, like if you're really communicating with me in these other areas and coming to me as a yellow butterfly, show me a yellow butterfly now inside this restaurant. And it was very interesting because at the same time, I was emailing this client about our upcoming session, and I noticed a yellow butterfly flying outside my window and my office, and I just decided to, write that because the client has mentioned that this is their sign from their deceased relative, and I felt compelled as I was writing them about the scheduling that I saw a yellow butterfly. And the client wrote me back immediately, and they said they just asked to see a sign of a yellow butterfly in the restaurant. And so even though the butterfly wasn't flying around in the yellow butterfly, the deceased relative found a way to deliver the message of a yellow butterfly through me to them. So we were both amazed by the synchronicity and what seemed again to be a response to their request from beyond. So just interesting. And again, you get to decide what makes sense to you. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just sharing information and what it means to me. So you may also find feathers or coins that are meant to encourage you and remind you that you're not alone, that you're on the right path. Once when I was doing lots of work on inner prosperity and outer prosperity, I was walking across the street from the veterinarian to a cafe when I lived in Oakland. And one of the patrons, when I walked into the coffee shop, said, excuse me, you have something on your shoe. I was immediately embarrassed and assuming I was tracking like toilet paper or garbage on my shoe. So embarrassed. And so I looked down at my shoe and I picked this paper up off my shoe and it was a $100 bill. And I was like, is this yours? And she said, no. And I just thanked her. I assumed that, oh my God, I realized like it might be my $100 bill that I carried around in my wallet to feel prosperous. So I always carried a $100 bill in my wallet, something I'd heard from Abraham. And so I was like, oh my God, then if it's not hers, it must be my $100 bill has fallen out of my wallet. So I was so happy she'd noticed. And as I went to put the $100 bill back into my wallet, I saw that my Ben Franklin was comfy, still there, right where it had always been. And this was just such an incredible sign to me. And I believe my guides were giving me a wonderful message that, my prosperity work was paying off, that it was real, and that miracles and magic could happen because here was this $100 bill stuck to my shoe. Again, I looked around to see if anyone had dropped anything, and no one had. So these are just some things that can be spiritual signs. There are more things that can be spiritual signs. And again, I invite you to share any of your experiences with synchronicities, messages, angel numbers, anything like that in the comments section. And I'll be talking more about different kinds of ways to know that you're being guided by spirit and receiving these divine messages. Thank you again for watching this video. Please feel free to send it to anybody who you feel could benefit from it. I invite you to like the video and to subscribe. So let me say that again. I invite you to like the video if you like it and to subscribe to my channel and watch some of the other videos I have on past life regression, journey of the souls, and just different wellness topics, health and wellness. And again, thank you for watching. Take care.